In the quiet green hills of Rwanda, there was a village called Ngoma. Life there followed old rules. People believed boys should study and girls should stay home. Girls were expected to cook, clean, fetch water, and marry young. After primary school, most girls never stepped into a classroom again. That was how it had always been, and no one questioned it. But one girl was different. Her name was Nia Uwamana. Nia had eyes like morning rain, soft yet full of strength. Her mind was quick and curious, always asking questions. From her first day in school, Nia loved learning. She especially loved science. While other girls practiced cooking, Nia would read old textbooks under the mango tree. Her dream was simple but bold. She wanted to become a teacher. Her father didn't agree. "Girls belong in kitchens," he would say, shaking his head. Her mother stayed silent. Even when her teacher, Mr. Habimana, visited her parents and said, "She has talent," they refused to listen. At 15, Nia finished primary school. She begged her father to let her go to secondary school in the town nearby. He just laughed and said, "We have no money for girls' schooling. Your brother Claude needs it more." Claude went to school. Nia stayed home. Day after day, she helped her mother, but her heart wasn't there. Every evening, she would sit quietly by herself, reading borrowed books and dreaming of more. One night, during dinner, Nia couldn't hold it in anymore. She said, "I want to leave. I want to study." Her father slammed his hand on the table. "Enough! You shame this family." Tears burning her face, Nia knew she couldn't stay. That night, with a small bag in hand and no goodbye, she walked away from Ngoma. Her dream was too big to leave behind. From her very first day in school, Nia felt something special. While other kids played, she sat close to the front, eyes wide, listening to every word. Science became her favorite. She loved learning about stars, plants, and how things worked. Deep inside, she carried a quiet dream. One day, she would stand in front of a classroom as a teacher. But in her home, dreams like that didn't belong to girls. Her father, Papa Uwamana, believed girls had one path: cook, clean, marry, and raise children. He didn't see the value in books or school for his daughter. "Girls belong in kitchens, not classrooms," he would say firmly again and again. Her mother, Mama Uwamana, stayed silent, always busy with housework, her face calm but her eyes sad. Even when Nia's teacher, Mr. Habimana, saw her talent and couldn't stay quiet, things didn't change. One afternoon, Mr. Habimana came to Nia's home. He sat with her parents and spoke gently. "Your daughter is special," he said. "She understands things most students don't. She could become something great if you let her study." But Papa Uwamana didn't even look up from his bowl of food. He just shook his head slowly and said, "We have no money for such things. Her brother needs school more." That was the end of it. Still, Nia didn't give up inside her heart. At night, when everyone else slept, she would light a small candle and read old science books she had borrowed from classmates. Her eyes would burn with sleep, but she forced herself to stay awake. Every page she turned felt like a small step closer to her dream. Yet she spoke of it to no one. It wasn't safe to share such thoughts in a place where ambition for girls was seen as trouble. Nia kept her hopes quietly hidden, but they never left her. At 15, Nia finished primary school, her heart full of hope. She went to her father and asked if she could attend secondary school in Hai, a nearby town. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. Her father didn't even think before laughing. "We have no money for girls' schooling. Your brother needs it more," he said, waving his hand like her words didn't matter. Claude, her brother, got the school fees without question. Nia stayed home, watching him leave each morning while she remained behind. Her days became long and quiet. She cooked ugali in the hot kitchen, fetched heavy buckets of water from the river, and cared for her younger siblings. But no matter how busy the chores kept her, her mind never stopped thinking about the classroom she had lost. Every afternoon, when no one was looking, Nia would slip away to her favorite spot, under the wide mango tree behind their house. Hidden by its shade, she'd pull out old textbooks borrowed from friends. The pages were worn and the covers torn, but to Nia, they were treasures. She would run her fingers over the words, reading each line slowly, tasting the knowledge like it was food. Her favorite subjects were still science and math. She imagined herself solving big problems, helping people, standing tall as a teacher one day. But in reality, her feet were stuck in the dust of Ngoma, far from any classroom. Even when her friends visited, wearing school uniforms and sharing stories of their lessons, Nia just listened with a quiet smile, hiding the ache in her heart. Every night, after everyone had fallen asleep, she would stare at the stars through the small window in her room, whispering to herself, "One day, I'll study again." No one believed in her, not even her own family. But Nia held on to her dream, sitting under that mango tree, reading page after page, refusing to let her hope die. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the hills and the family gathered for dinner, Nia could no longer hold her silence. Her heart beat fast, but her voice stayed steady as she said, "I want to leave. I want to study." For a moment, the room went quiet. Then her father slammed his hand hard on the wooden table, making the bowls shake. His face darkened with anger. "Enough!" he shouted. "You shame this family with your talk. Girls don't need school. You belong here, not in some classroom." Her mother lowered her eyes, saying nothing, while her brother Claude just kept eating, pretending not to hear. Nia felt like her world was falling apart. She couldn't breathe. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall in front of her father. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, she lay awake, staring at the roof, her mind racing. Her dreams couldn't live here. If she stayed, her life would be nothing but cooking, cleaning, and carrying water. Her books would gather dust, her dreams fading away like smoke. Quietly, she got up, moving like a shadow. She packed a small bag with the few things she had: 2 shirts, a scarf, a notebook, and her favorite science book. Her hands shook as she tied the bag closed. Her eyes burned with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. With one last look around the small house, she stepped outside into the cool night. The stars above seemed to watch her as she walked away from everything she'd ever known. There was no clear plan in her mind, only a voice in her heart saying, "Go!" Her feet moved faster and faster, as if the ground itself was pushing her forward. Nia didn't know where the road would lead. She just knew she couldn't stay. That night, in the dark silence of Ngoma, a girl chose her future over her fear. Nia left her village with nothing but a small bag and her dream. She didn't have much money, but her heart was set. She walked long dusty roads, caught rides in crowded buses, and sometimes waited hours hoping a stranger would offer her a lift. Days passed like this, walking, riding, resting wherever she could. Her feet ached, her stomach was often empty, but she didn't turn back. Finally, she reached Nairobi, Kenya, a city larger and louder than anything she had ever seen. In Nairobi, Nia didn't know anyone well, but she remembered hearing about a distant cousin named Amani. After asking around, she found her. Amani was surprised to see Nia but didn't send her away. Amani worked as a housekeeper and lived in a small room behind the house where she worked. Even with little space, she shared it with Nia. When Nia told her story, Amani listened quietly, then said, "You have a brave heart. We'll find a way." Amani helped Nia get a job as a cleaner at a school called Hope Academy. It wasn't easy. Every morning, Nia scrubbed classroom floors, cleaned windows, and carried heavy buckets of water. Her hands became rough from the work, but she didn't complain. She was just happy to be near books and learning again. At night, after all the students had gone home, Nia would sit quietly in the empty classrooms. Some old textbooks were left behind on desks, pages folded and worn. Nia collected them carefully and read by the light of a small torch Amani had given her. Page after page she taught herself. Science, math, English, whatever she could find. Her eyes often stung from tiredness, but she kept going. Even though she was just a cleaner, Nia felt closer to her dream. Nairobi wasn't easy, but for the first time, she wasn't just surviving, she was moving forward. Her journey had really begun. Life in the city was not easy for Nia. Some mornings, she woke up with an empty stomach, but she still went to work. Cleaning classrooms all day left her hands dry and her body aching. At night, she often felt too tired to open her books, but she forced herself. Her dream kept pushing her forward. There were days when she felt like giving up, wondering if it was all worth it. But then, she'd remind herself why she left home. One afternoon, As she was wiping down a classroom board, a teacher named Miss Zawadi walked in and noticed her reading a science textbook left on a desk. "Why do you study so hard when you're just the cleaner?" Zawadi asked, her voice gentle but curious. Nia looked up, unsure whether to answer. But then she told her story, about her village, her father's refusal, and her dream of becoming a teacher. Something in Nia's words moved Miss Zawadi. From that day, Zawadi checked on her often, asking how she was doing, giving her old books, and teaching her small things during breaks. One evening, Zawadi said, "There's a scholarship program for students like you. Let me help you apply." Nia's hands shook as she filled out the forms, writing slowly, afraid she'd make a mistake. Weeks passed with no news. Then, one morning, Zawadi came running to her with a letter in her hand, smiling wide. Nia had been accepted into night classes, felt like a door had finally opened. From that moment, her days became even harder. Work in the morning, school in the evening, studying late at night. Still, she pushed through step by step. There were times when her eyes closed on their own from exhaustion, but she'd wake up and keep reading. Months turned into years. Slowly, Nia completed her studies. Finally, she held her secondary certificate in her hands, tears in her eyes. It wasn't just a piece of paper. It was proof that she hadn't given up. After earning her secondary certificate, Nia knew her journey wasn't over. She wanted more than just a certificate. She wanted to teach. So, without wasting time, she applied to a teacher training college in Nairobi. It wasn't easy. She still worked as a cleaner during the day, studying during breaks and attending classes at night. Sometimes, she would walk long distances just to save money on bus fare. Her shoes wore out, her body felt weak, but her spirit stayed strong. Year after year, Nia kept going. While others her age were settling down or giving up, she pushed forward. She studied science with focus, remembering all the times she had read under the mango tree back home. By the time she turned 24, Nia finally graduated as a certified science teacher. Holding that certificate in her hands felt like holding her whole life's fight in one moment. Not long after, Nia received her first real job offer, to teach science at Bright Future School in Kigali, a respected school in the capital city. Many would have seen it as a big chance, a way to live comfortably and be respected. But when Nia read the offer letter, her heart felt heavy. She couldn't shake one thought. There were girls like her back in Ngoma still sitting at home, dreams locked inside them. That night, she sat quietly, thinking. All the struggles, the hunger, the long nights, the pain of leaving home, it wasn't just for her. It was for the ones left behind. So she made her choice. Nia politely turned down the job in Kigali. Instead, she packed her few belongings and caught a bus heading back to Ngoma. As the green hills came into view, tears filled her eyes. This wasn't just her village now, it was her mission. She returned, not as the girl they once doubted, but as a teacher ready to give others the chance she once had to fight so hard for. When Nia stepped back into Ngoma, the village looked just as she had left it. Quiet roads, green hills, and small houses. But this time, she wasn't a girl with dusty feet and a small bag. She wore a clean, crisp teacher's uniform, her head held high. Villagers paused what they were doing. Some dropped their tools. Others stood frozen, whispering to each other. Nia, the girl who had left in silence, had returned as someone they barely recognized. As she walked toward her family's home, she saw her mother by the roadside, carrying a basket of cassava leaves. When Mama Uamana saw her daughter in uniform, she gasped. The basket slipped from her hands, leaves scattering on the ground. Her voice trembled, eyes wide. You really became a teacher?" Nia's smile was calm, but her heart pounded. "Yes, Mama. I'm here to open Ngoma's first community school." Her mother stepped closer, touching Nia's sleeve as if to check if it was real. Her eyes filled with quiet tears, not of sadness, but of something closer to pride. The news spread through Ngoma like wind through trees. People gathered around her, some shaking their heads in disbelief. A few murmured doubts. A girl teaching boys? Will this even work? But Nia didn't flinch. She had faced harder days before. She gathered the children under the big mango tree where she once read alone. With a piece of chalk and a simple wooden board, She started her first class right there, under the sky. At first, only a few children came, curious. Then more joined, including her brother Claude's son. Slowly, those who had laughed now watched in silence. They couldn't deny what they saw. Children learning, reading, writing, smiling. Day by day, Nia's quiet classroom grew. And as more people believed in her mission, donors helped build a real school building. Walls went up where there had once been only dust and hope. Ngoma Learning Center was no longer just a dream in Nia's heart. It stood strong in the middle of the village. Welk. When Nia began teaching in Ngoma, not everyone believed in her. Some villagers gathered at the edge of the field, shaking their heads and whispering among themselves. A girl teaching boys? They scoffed. Who will listen to her? Others laughed openly, saying she would give up soon, just like the wind changes direction. But Nia didn't answer them. She simply picked up her chalk and stood under the big mango tree, writing numbers and letters on a wooden board. At first, only 2 children showed up, sitting on the ground with curious eyes. Nia taught them patiently, as if there were 50 students instead of 2. Slowly, more children began to come. One brought a broken pencil, another brought an old notebook with torn pages. Some didn't even have shoes, but they came because they wanted to learn. Nia welcomed them all with a smile. The biggest surprise came when her own brother, Claude, who once took the school fees meant for her, sent his son to join her class. Claude stood quietly at the back, watching as his son sat cross-legged on the ground, learning from the sister everyone had doubted. That moment made Nia's heart full. Soon, the sight of children gathered under the mango tree became normal in Ngoma. Villagers couldn't deny the change. The children began reading signs, counting money for their parents, helping with small things they never did before. Word spread beyond the village, and one day a visitor came, someone from a charity group. They watched Nia's class, saw her passion, and offered to help. With their support, Ngoma Learning Center was built. It wasn't big or fancy, but it had real walls, a roof, and desks where children could sit properly. The mango tree still stood outside, a reminder of where everything started. And those same villagers who once laughed now sent their own children to the school, proud to say they were learning with teacher Nia. Her dream wasn't just hers anymore. It had become the heart of Ngoma. Today, in every corner of Rwanda, people know the name Nia Uwimana. Her story is told in schools, homes, and markets. What once began as just a girl standing under a mango tree has grown into something much bigger. Ngoma Learning Center is now a real school with many classrooms, desks, and colorful books. Girls and boys sit side by side, learning from teachers who once were students there themselves. Some of those students who learned under Nia's guidance have gone on to become doctors, engineers, and teachers. Many of them return to Ngoma just to say thank you or to help teach the next group of children. Nia's dream became a cycle. Those she taught now teach others. When people visit Ngoma today, they see children running with school bags on their backs, laughing and reading from books. It's a sight that would have been unthinkable years ago. Mothers and fathers proudly watch their daughters walk to class, something Nia once had to fight so hard for herself. The village that once doubted her now celebrates her. And wherever someone begins to tell her story, the words always start the same. They refuse to sponsor her education because girls belong in kitchens. Now she teaches their kids. It's repeated with pride, not shame. It reminds everyone that belief in oneself can change everything. Even after all the success, Nia remains simple and humble. She still walks through the village, greeting everyone by name. She helps sweep the school courtyard, just like she once cleaned classrooms in Nairobi. Her heart never changed, only her mission grew bigger. Nia's journey proved one thing clearly: dreams do not care about where you were born or what others say. With courage and hard work, even the quietest ambition can grow into something that touches many lives. Now, every girl in Ngoma knows that she can be more than what tradition says, because one woman showed them it was possible, and her legacy lives on in every classroom filled with learning and hope.